for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that you said coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NUFC Matters Ask George. Sometimes you just feel like singing along to the Long Sand song. I know it wouldn't go down well on here.
my Marjorie would have, you know that, Steve.
Yeah, and people say, I remember Sid coming on when we did the new credits, and he's going, "Is that longer?" And I went, "Yeah, it's 2 minutes long." I says, "I just enjoy that song." We'll make the next one 3 minutes into the show.
Well, Marjorie used to sit in that chair post and rock to the music. She loved it. She loved it.
Great stuff. Anyway, you know the drill, everybody. Get your questions in for George. Keeps the show going because it is Ask George. It's not Steve Ask George. It's you Ask George. You get your questions in. John Ask Yous started off with a flurry, which is great. Thank you, John. Afternoon, everyone. Was George a little concerned by last week's press conference when Eddie made it clear that it's time for a good transfer window? It was almost as if he felt it was necessary to send a message to Paul and Darren. Or am I just overthinking it a bit?
No, I think it's a good point, John. 3-0 windows was hard to take for everybody. It must have been very hard to take for Eddie. But I can't believe that wasn't part of a much bigger plan. And that plan should unfold this summer. Certainly in the summer window and in the following window. But I'd be very disappointed if we didn't bring at least 3 signings in. Signings that are ready for the first team. Mitchell's done well on the young ones. I mean, our under-21s are unrecognisable already, beating everything they put in front of them. But now is the time to reward Eddie for his work, because we've got some aging players at the back and at the front and who need replacing. So he needs a boost, and that boost's got to be this window. So it's a fair question. It's a fair question.
Hi, Mark. He says, what ridiculous time is this for a show? It's bloody 7 a.m. here, man. Well, we wanted to get you off to a good start of the day, Mark. That's what we wanted to do. This is what happens, mate, when I'm actually doing some work. Yeah, it's going to be the same in June, unfortunately. A lot of acting work coming in for me at the moment. So it's all good news, but it's just not great news if you want an evening show, unfortunately. It's just impossible to do, but at least you're managing to get your shows. And for the next couple of weeks, I do want to remind everybody, especially the moderators in the chat, because you'll be the ones who have to tell people when you're watching the shows. A lot of pre-recorded shows coming over the next 2 weeks. As always, as we get towards the back end of the season, there is time off required by a lot of people. People are on holidays and stuff like that. And me as well, need a little bit of a break from doing live shows. Can't do them 365 days of the year. So, yeah, a little bit of a break for me coming up. But you still have an NUFC Matters show every night of the week. For the next couple of weeks, but I will chip in when I can and do the odd live as well. It will be the same in June, and then there'll be a little bit more normality as we come into July and start looking to next season. John, another question from John. Will the unbridled joy on Weir side act as an extra motivator for Sheffield United? I don't blame them for enjoying it. However, yeah, so John, of course, is referring to last night's result. Sunderland won, Coventry won, and that followed on from Sunderland's 2-1 win at Coventry, which means that Sunderland go through to the playoff final at Wembley, where they will face Sheffield United for a place in the Premier League. Unbridled joy is definitely the way to describe it. I got in to see the extra time period. I saw Dan Ballard's goal and then saw the celebrations. And I mean, look, Sunderland have had nothing to celebrate really over the last 7 or 8 years since they dropped out of the Premier League. Even had the relegation to the third tier, which is something which I'm sure they all found really embarrassing. But they've gradually pulled themselves back up to the Championship. They've missed out on the playoffs prior to this season, so it's an opportunity for them, I guess, to come back up. Do you think it'll be an extra motivator for Sheffield United? I watched Sheffield United. They certainly have the bit between their teeth, but anything can happen at Wembley, George.
I was about to say, do they need an extra motivation? I mean, so Sheffield United this year, I mean, Wilder has his fans and he has those who don't like him. But anybody who looks at what he's done this year, 21 changes in staff on that team, and he's managed to get them together, not just to get up the league, but nearly win automatic promotion against teams that had spent a fortune and changed very little. So with Wilder as the manager, I don't think they need much motivation. He'll do most of the motivation. The other thing is, in fairness to the Mackhams, the managers, he's done a canny job as well. I mean, when he was appointed, I was probably one of those who said, who? Where? What's he from? And he's early season and mid-season, they've had played some good football. Just the last couple of months, the last 5 or 6 games, they seem to have gone off the boil. And even in the first leg of this semi-final, Coventry should have beat them. If Coventry had their wits about them, they wouldn't have lost that game. But Sunderland won it with about 22% possession. So you've got to take your hats off to them. And again, last night, on the basis of control and possession and all the rest of it, Coventry should have walked it. But if you don't put the ball back in the net, that's what happens. And I have to say, in fairness to Ballard, for me, he was the star of the night. Having watched the game, he was everywhere. Coventry rely on deep crosses. Every cross that went in was headed out by Ballard, and then there he was at the other end, scoring the winning goal. So yes, unbridled joy they're entitled to, but I worry that they'll get savaged off Sheffield United at Wembley. I do, because there's a different setup there completely. And as I say, they won't need motivated. Their manager will motivate them. So, well, be interested to see what happens. And the other thing that the Mackham's supporters have got to think about is think about what your owners have got in mind. I'm worried that that if they do win it, goodness gracious, there'll be some changes in there, because their owner's looking for a payday, and he might take that opportunity with parachute money and all that sort of thing. So, but they're entitled to their joy. They've done what they wanted to do, and yeah, let them enjoy it. Happy for them.
Yeah, some people don't want to see Sunderland come up. I've got to be honest. I've said it on here and I'll say it again. I always enjoy the derbies, and I know a lot of people don't enjoy the derbies. They find them nervous, and but it's all part and parcel of it. As long as Newcastle finish above Sunderland, it doesn't bother me. But I've got a feeling that if any of those teams come up, Sheffield United or Sunderland, I can't see them progressing at all, and probably beat that points record. There's going to be somebody going to end up with 8 or 9 points.
I've got to say, my instant reaction is to whoever comes up was, well, that's 6 points for us.
Yeah, Sheffield look very strong. Wembley can sometimes be a level. I'm sure Sheffield United have a poor playoff record. Gary, it's the meeting of two teams with poor playoff records. You're definitely right there. But this could be the season that you see Newcastle and Sunderland both beat their Wembley hoodoo. Sunderland, of course, haven't won at Wembley. You can't count the Papa John's Trophy since '73. And obviously, from our perspective, we hadn't won since '55. So, it could be the season that they both do it. Johnny says, personally, I want to see the Macklins back in the Premier League. It's good for North East football. And having watched last night's game, says Mark, were there any players George would fancy for us for the future? I really like the look of the Japanese lad at Coventry. Tidy player, reminded me of Bernardo Silva.
The honest answer, no. There are signs of in Jude Bellingham, Joe Bellingham, that he's got something about him, and maybe with the right management, he might produce something. But other than that, no, there's nobody that I would be desperate to sign for Newcastle United, to be honest. And even the guy that he's talking about for Coventry, he gets stuck in an alley for me, unfortunately. He gets to a place and then he seems stuck. A bit like Miggy Almiron was for us, and we don't need another Miggy Almiron.
No, we definitely don't. Dan says, I'm not bothered either way. They don't come up and it's hilarious. Almost a decade out of the top flight. If they do come up, that's an easy 6 points. It is a win-win for us all. John, with another question. Get your questions in, folks. Only got 3 at the moment. Does George think it's okay for a player who plays a little over half the season to win Player of the Season? Because it's a real possibility at Newcastle this season.
That's a good question. The answer is, if somebody's put in the performances, even if it is for half a season, they're entitled to what's going their way. Hard work gets its reward, and if somebody's put that kind of effort in to attract the eye and make people think they're good enough to be player of the season, then they're entitled to it. For me, it's a tough business. It's a business where they've got to take lots of criticism. So. If they're doing it right and working hard and giving something to the football club, then they're entitled to the rewards. Is my view.
Okay, Les says thoughts on Dan Ashworth saying that he knew he'd made a mistake when he was put on gardening leave, but it was too late. Well,
yes, I mean, there's an issue about all of these, a lot of these appointments. I mean, one of the worries about me with Ashworth was, yes, he had a reputation in Brighton, but his reputation in Brighton was doing something that we didn't particularly need. What we wanted was somebody who was going to, help to Eddie to build the first team, and he did some of that. I mean, he takes credit for the Tonali signing, I presume, but for him to say that he's haven't had second thoughts, but it was too late. Well, what kind of decision making is that? Is that what you want as a director of football? He can't make his own mind for himself. What the hell is he going to be like for the football club? And then he walks into a nightmare at Manchester United, obviously with Ratcliffe, and just gets worse. So No, I think it just, again, it just, to me, from a business and management point of view, it just points out to me some of his thinking, some of his management thinking, and how he runs his business life. It's a peculiar statement to make after you've done the job that you've done.
Yeah, certainly is. George's thoughts on Murphy. He's had a great season, but has it been a Miggy season? In my opinion, I think it's a priority position this summer. Strengthen when in a position of strength to improve the squad. Well,
I don't mind admitting, and it'll be no surprise to Darren on Fans Forum, that I'm been a Murphy fan for a long time, because he doesn't just do the skill things, he works so hard all the time. If ever that right side breaks down and whoever's right back's in missing, you can guarantee the person that covers it and brings it back is Murphy. And I don't like to rely just on statistics, but at the moment, statistically, he's at the top of the tree in the Premiership, not just for us. And the other night, I don't know if anybody else seen it, but I saw a piece of Alan Shearer talking about Murphy, and he was ecstatic about Murphy, absolutely ecstatic. In fact, he was berating Lineker and Michael Richards, who he did the podcast with, on the fact that they hadn't a clue because of what they were saying. And Alan Shearer was really bumming up Murphy, and I that's a hell of a thing to get from somebody. But John, the point you make is a good one. We still need to think about what else, because already rumours are that there's talks about changes with Harvey Barnes in the summer and being used to make way for other transfers and all the rest of it. Well, but that right side is still needs strengthening, and it would be nice to see. The big plus for me with, for example, going for Mbembo from Brentford is that he can play out on the right or the left, I believe. I'm led to believe, as well as through the middle. Now that would be a great thing to have, and that's something traditionally Newcastle's always had forwards who could do both. Len White, Jackie Milburn, they all were happy out on the right or in the middle. So, but that's one way of covering the Murphy situation. But he's had a hell of a season, but by any imagination.
Yeah, certainly has. Next question was from Gary. He says, George, with Villa possibly facing PSR issues, is there any player at the club that you think we could possibly sign?
Well, I think the centre forward is an obvious backup for Isak. He could easily play off Isak with Isak, or be a straight replacement off the bench. So that's the first person I would look at. He has the knack, as he did against Bournemouth the other day. He has the knack of being very quiet, but suddenly coming awake for a couple of seconds just to get his foot in the right place or his head in the right place to score a goal. And I can see why England managers have looked at him and played him. And so there's the one who I would look at. But there are others around the country now, because there are lots of teams that are going to be struggling with PSR. And I'm sure it won't be lost on Paul Mitchell that the club's going to be nearly giving players away, to survive the financial regulations. I mean, this week's figures for Manchester United, I don't know if anybody's interested, but I usually leave the financial things to the two professionals. But I couldn't help but look at Manchester United's position and reflect on how lucky we are at the moment. And was it 13 years ago, the Glazers bought Manchester United for 615 million. Well, they didn't. The first thing they did is they mortgaged the ground and got the 615 million back, and then have gone on taking millions in dividends every year. and just paying it off as interest. They have paid, since they took over, 875 million in interest on that loan. And the loan is now nearly 800 million pounds still outstanding. And we think Ashley did us bad? My God. No wonder Ratcliffe said if he didn't do something, Manchester United would be out of cash by November. So I reflect on how lucky we are. And what it means is when Manchester United start trying to buy this summer, they're going to have one or two players who are going to go cheap. And what the hell are they going to do with Radford if they take him back, Rashford, at 370 million a week? I mean, it just beggars belief. I wouldn't suggest for 1 minute that we should be interested in him. But again, looking at number 9s, they have a Scandinavian Highland centre forward who I particularly like, and with the right training and the right background, could make a very, very good, dangerous centre forward and back up for Isak, for example. So that, this long answer to a short question. Yes, the PR situation, which should help us, should really help us. And I'm sure that's not been lost on our owners and our transfer people.
Dan says, I don't want to give Villa any money. They didn't help us when we had PSR issues. They are our direct rival at this moment of progression. Harsh, but it's a tough league. Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of PSR situations developing over the course of the next couple of weeks and months, because ultimately people have to keep their head above water. People have to get things right. And those who miss out on the Champions League will be the ones who have to make some rather bizarre decisions. We did it last year with Minte and Anderson. Two players that Howe wanted to keep. He couldn't, and he had to sell. And ultimately bringing in Vlachimidos, the goalkeeper, which again, bizarre situation. But again, we all believe that was probably down to PSR. AJ, good afternoon, mate. I hope you're well. He says, I don't want to sound negative, but has George been disappointed by the lack of youth or fringe players that have been used this season?
By the number who've progressed from the bench onto the pitch, although it's been good to see some new names. But I tend to temper that criticism because, as I indicated earlier, I've been watching what's been happening in our under 21 level, and they're on fire at the moment. And some of the signings have been absolutely incredible. I met one recently, the young lad that's just come from Turkey, because I know some of his connections here on Tyne side, who I used to work with, a Turkish professor, who was a great friend of Emery, who used to play for Newcastle United. And this kid's from the same school as Emery came from. And everybody, my Turkish connections, are saying what a fantastic kid he is. Well, add to that, lots of others from Spain, from Eastern Europe, and some from Ireland, some from Scotland. And the under 21s have been knocking everybody sideways. And at last, people are talking positive about young Puel again, the Australian lad that we thought so much of when we brought him in, and he disappeared to Hearts for a couple of seasons, which was a disaster. So yes, I would like to have seen more young Mileys coming our way if possible. But as I say, I temper it with the fact that I think next season and the season after we're going to be overrun with talent if the under 21s progress the way they are.
Okay, we are halfway through the show. We'll have a quick ad break. We will be back after this. Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up: 27th of June 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk or from Voucher. No Covers takes place at the Cluny. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and be some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall, Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainer's book, signed by Les Ferdinand, available from nufcmatters.co.uk. Okay, welcome back to Ask George. Mark says, George, what are your thoughts on Crestgate? Personally, I prefer Colgate. He said it's a tedious link to Neil's profession.
Yes. Well, my only argument with it is the timing of it. And I'd be happy. I'm happy to see them settle on something, but settle on something that'll last a long time. Bearing in mind we've got a new stadium to decorate as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain. As a traditionalist, of course, I always liked the City coat of arms, but once that link was broken, thanks to somebody in the Civic Hall, and we started to do our own, I wasn't unhappy about the very simple NUFC with the magpie underneath. The only thing about that was there's only one magpie, and as a traditionalist, you've got to have two, I'm afraid. So it's set off an interesting debate, but the timing could be better in my thoughts. It's bound to make people think as well, am I going to buy this shirt and it's going to have a different crest on next week? I mean, they've said it's not going to happen for the season after next or at the very earliest sometime next season. But that doesn't help. It's an unnecessary debate in some ways, but I hope they are actually taking notice of what supporters say, though, because the one area where our new owners, in my opinion, have missed the boat slightly is their so-called consultation with supporters has looked very thin. I mean, the appointment of the FAB, for example, was an absolute P&R disaster. You know, and most supporters you talk to couldn't care less about the FAB, and yet the FAB should be so important to them, especially if they're talking about, you know, fans contact officer or whatever they're going to call it. Well, that's what the Fab should be doing. They should be out and about talking to people and getting feelings. And it hasn't been like that. It's been like what people thought. So I hope they do take notice of what the fans say on the crest. I'm not. I don't buy the thing about it one being simple than the others. Nowadays, modern machinery, embroidery machinery, they can do what they like, and with print machinery, even more so. So you know, yeah, it is it's storming a teacup in some ways, but it's an important one to some people, and the fans particularly, especially those who buy lots of merchandise from the club. So, yeah, understand the concern.
The Crest Workshop has been so popular they've split it into 2 days now. It's the only event they've done that for, which is interesting. Yeah, I got an invite, but unfortunately I can't attend. But thank you, Newcastle United, for inviting us. George, have you heard anything about Isaac having an operation in the summer? I mean, there's, we don't get that kind of information, but I mean, ultimately,
well,
I wouldn't be surprised if he has something done.
Yes, and he's playing like somebody who's carrying something, and there was just a whisper in one of Eddie's press conferences or on something else that it's actually a groin thing. Now, if it's a groin thing, it may well need an operation. I'd have to bow to the knowledge of my medical knowledge son, but yes, I think it would not surprise me if Isaac has some sort of operation in the summer, and that operation happens to be in his groin area.
Les says, I agree, George. The FAB comes across as a secret society. Geordie Dan is going to the Crest meeting on Monday, which is good. You have to feed back. Let us know, Dan, how it went. Crest Workshop sounds like something they do at a kids' summer camp in the school holidays. Does George think Guardiola owes his managerial success on the back pass rule? The press would be pointless if a keeper could pick the ball up.
Yeah, well, it may be. I don't know. What he has done is enhance the role of goalkeeper, like a centre back now, and that's changed a lot of football. Not just his, but a lot of people follow them. I mean. Not all can do it, as we know with our dear friend Nick Pope. On a good day, he's super. On a bad day, he's going to kick it into Rowe's head. But I think it's modern things in football intrigue me, and I've got to say the goalkeeper thing generally intrigues me. The most protected position on the pitch, in my opinion, and the fact that. They not only do get the protection, they're now finding other ways of protecting themselves. I mean, Pickford started this business of every time he gets the ball in his arms, he drops on his chest and lies on the ball. Well, for me, that's as bad as bloody simulation. I would book him for that if I had my way, because the amount of minutes that's wasted. And of course, we used it when we were in the Championship. I mean, when we first came up, I mean, Rafa had Darlow. There's one year when Darlow played nearly a whole season, and they worked out in one game, Darlow wasted 25 minutes of play just by fiddling with his boots and dropping on the ball and kicking his boots against the goalpost and all that sort of rubbish. So they're a protected species, but I have to say, Guardiola has, with the goalkeepers he's had, he's turned them into footballers as well as goalkeepers now. And most of his goalkeepers have been really clever with their feet and not just shot stoppers.
Mark says, saying that I hate most rule changes, but the back pass rule has been superb for the game as a spectacle. Would you agree, George?
Yes, generally, yeah, because it means it's something else for the goalkeeper to think about. It's one less opportunity for the goalkeeper to stop the game, in my opinion. The other thing that intrigues me is we've got rules that the referees don't apply, and yet they're inventing new rules for 8 seconds, 9 seconds, get a corner. Well, it's a 6-second rule at the moment, and they never use it. You know, after 6 seconds, the goalkeeper's supposed to get rid of that ball. But do they do it? No, nobody, no referee applies that. But yes, the back pass did change things a little. And it's one less, as I say, one less opportunity for the goalkeeper to hold things up.
George, do you have any players at the club who you think will be gone this summer? And if it was your choice, who would you sell or not offer a new contract to?
Oh, yes. I mean, Callum Wilson will go. I would like to see some of the goalkeepers go. Mark Gillespie's due a move on, I think. Vlachodimos, international goalkeeper, he really, for his own career, he should be thinking about going. If anything, Matt Target must be on his way. I would have thought. Callum Wilson, I love Callum Wilson that was, but the Callum Wilson we've got now is only half the player he was when he came, in my opinion. And to give him something else would be a travesty when we've got so many youngsters that's looking to do things. So there's a start from me. It wouldn't surprise me if other fringe players, though, as well. As I say already, I hear from some of my contacts that there's talk of even Harvey Barnes being used as a make-weight and transfer as well. That would, you know, you either like him or you hate him. It's a bit Marmite sometimes, but they're the list of who would go for me. There are others. What I don't want next year or any other year is another season when Newcastle bench has 3 goalkeepers on it. That for me would be an admission of total failure in terms of transfers. It would. And I just can't believe that we'd let that happen again. So that means that some of those who are holding down goalkeeper positions at the moment, like Gillespie, like Vlachodimos, etc., got to be on their bikes surely in the summer. And as I say, Matt Target is a decent player, but not where we want to be at the moment, unfortunately.
No, Geordie Dan says Longstaff, Wilson, one of the 50 keepers we've got in target. Mark says Gillespie would probably stay simply for the homegrown quota in the Champions League. Luckiest man alive, him. I think you're right, mate. Yeah, he's living the dream, isn't he? Mark also asks us if human beings were born with an item, which item would you like to have been born with, George?
With an item?
An item, yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, God, that's a tough one.
Got to be your rattle. It's got to be your rattle, George, hasn't it?
Yes. Yes. It's probably one of the most travelled things in my house. So why not a football rattle? Yes. The other thing is that I'm a great foodie. So. In Christmas, when I spent Christmas in Dubai with our Neil, he'd just bought an air fryer, which I'd never thought about. By hell, I would come back as an air fryer, no bother.
I would say my laptop so I could continue to do NUFC matters. So there we go. That keeps everybody happy in the chat. A bottle opener, says Ches. Geordie Dan suggests an unlimited debit card would be quite handy. Yeah. Good idea. Les says a dodgy stick to watch all the football. So we've got some good ones coming in. Keep them coming in. Mark also would like to know what substance do you think Jeff inhales before appearing on the fans forum? He says, just kidding. I always look forward to his part. It's entertaining. Jeff's great, isn't he? Jeff's humour is sometimes misunderstood by those who aren't on his intellectual level.
Absolutely, and I need to tell you that Jeff is a very generous man as well. I can vouch for that. He is extremely generous with the things he does for other people on NUFC matters, including myself and I know Steve as well. He if he sees an opportunity to give us a treat, he does, and that really is appreciated. I'd say it out loud now, but he is a he is what they call in my old-fashioned words a free thinker. And there's plenty of room in this world for free thinkers, especially with some of the things that Jeff comes out with.
He's a lovely guy. He's a top
Yeah.
man. He gets along to the do's as well when we have them. And he's had ups and downs like we all have in life. But the only time me and Jeff fall out is if I forget to send him the link to come on the fans forum, which I have done before, and he tells us off. So Jeff's a top lad. Portland Mag says, if Newcastle are to get Champions League, which position would you spend big on?
I think I'd have to go with the backup striker for Isak.
Yeah, same
so
as me.
that we can't rely on a position again that has somebody like Wilson as second best. Is Eddie going to release a new Will Asula shortly? No, I'd buy a real top-notch backup striker, possibly somebody that could, on occasions, play up front with Isak as well.
Yeah,
and play back up with Isak, but striker would be my choice. Yeah, goals win matches. Simple as that.
Yeah, goals win games. Would keeping Barnes not be a sign of strength and depth? He's needed for rotation, surely. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it, with PSR? If Newcastle finish in the Champions League, I mean, I think it was you, George, might have mentioned it in our Amigos, which were pre-recorded for Friday, and I think it's been repeated a couple of times, or you might have mentioned it on the fans forum. The difference between finishing second and, say, sixth in the Premier League is massive. It might have been Steve Hasty who mentioned it, actually.
No,
I'm sure the difference is something in the region of 15 to 20 million, which is a huge amount of money. So Newcastle need to finish as high as they can for starters. But keeping Barnes would be a sign of strength and depth, because, ultimately you need 2 11s, George. That's what you need.
Well, what you need in the 25 is effectively 2 teams that can interchange as much as you can. And Barnes fits that model. I only mentioned Barnes in terms of transfers because that's a rumour that's been put in my direction. But I wouldn't be unhappy if Barnes stayed because he's less happy on the right than, say, Gordon is. But on the other hand, he still does a job if he's on there. And he's got the pace to frighten people, as he did on Sunday on occasions. So, no, I wouldn't be unhappy if Harvey Barnes was still there, provided we back up with other signings.
Gary would like another Italian at the club. We've been scouting heavily in Italy, so fingers crossed. Yeah, if we could find another Machina, it would be good, George.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean, and there are I'm sure if Paul Mitchell's got his finger on the European pulse generally, and if there is somebody else out there, I'm sure he'll do it. But the other thing is, of course, he may be tapping Sandro Tonali and saying, who else do you play with? It's not unusual for players to have a view about other players. I mean, I found it interesting. You see, somebody's saying about Sean Longstaff going. I don't know if anybody's watched the Tonali interview, and they asked him who his favourite player was, the best player was. And when they got to the end, and they said to him, "Who's the most underrated player you've played with?" And his answer was Sean Longstaff. Now that gobsmacked me, really did. However, but yes, another Italian would be great. And if you've seen the way that, the way Inter Milan played the other night is just incredible. And I think people have heard me say I try and catch podcasts when Tonali's playing for Italy, and the Italian press are always going on about now the Newcastle Machina. The Newcastle Machina's is Tonali, and Machina being machine in Italian. Another one. If we get someone else out of the same stable, but who doesn't have a penchant for betting, that would be great. Absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
We need to keep Barnes for rotation with Gordon, hence we will be bringing in a decent right winger for Murphy to rotate, says Geordie Dan. Let's hope we can beat Arsenal and we could finish runners-up. First time since 96-97, the last time we finished second. Yeah, I mean, finishing second, you know, who would have thought would have been talking about that? Gary, I'm not sure why you're telling us this. I do go to the games mainly, you know, but... yeah, I mean, there are plenty of apps on the Google Play Store to watch football during the 3 o'clock kickoffs. You're right, mate. I must have missed something there in the chat. And right wing, centre back, striker, and centre midfielder are Portland Mag's player list or wish list for the summer. And Mark says Italian footballers have got a great mentality. Let's not mention Balotelli, says Mark. Ches says, I also like the fact that Sandro said I need 4 or 5 more years to understand the Geordie dialect. And I'm not sure how you pronounce your name in the chat, but thank you for making the comments. From our perspective, it's always nice to welcome new people into the chat. What's the Italian called at Liverpool? Heard rumours Tonali said to steer clear. Yeah, that's the Chiesa, isn't it? We were chasing him earlier on in the transfer window last summer, I think. And Dan says, I'm feeling quietly confident regarding the Arsenal game. Let's do the quadruple over them this season.
Absolutely.
We've got nothing to fear this weekend, George. Have we really?
Nothing to lose. It's a free hit for me. There's, you know, we've talked here and elsewhere endlessly about getting the monkey off our back about a trophy. You know, and he goes on about the Stockholm syndrome. Well, I think we've done that, and the way we've been playing recently indicates that. We had a blip against the Villa because I think that was one game too many. We were tired on that one, but apart from that, if our cup final team turns up and plays in the same way, we fear nobody. And I really have the opinion the coach and the team that will be worried most about this weekend will be Arsenal and Arteta. It won't be Eddie Howe and our lot. They have a free hit, in my opinion, against Arsenal, and they should just go for it. I've already predicted a 1-0 win, and even if it's a dirty goal, I couldn't care less. But wouldn't it be amazing? 4 wins against Arsenal in a season, especially as Arteta refuses to give us any credit for that. You know, the other day he said, well, we've never been beat by anybody in the top 6. Well, yes, you have. 3 times, the same team. So, yeah, I think it's a free hit. We should go for it.
John says, me pal called in half an hour ago, so I've missed the show. Not to worry, I'll get it on tape. Lovely shows, George. Second is in our own hands, says Mark. A trophy in the bag. I was born in 74, best season in my lifetime. Arguably the best season since 26-27. Would you agree, George? Is this your best season? If Newcastle finish second and win a cup, is this your best season?
Yes, and in over 70 odd years of supporting, I've seen some great things. Pairs Cup, 3 FA Cups and all that sort of thing. But this one, for terms of consistency, 20 plus wins in a season, enormous number of goals scored. You know, only I think it's only Liverpool scored more than us. And winning a cup really made an effort. We let ourselves down in the FA Cup a little bit, but recovered that with the Carabao. And winning the Carabao, we beat every team that was above us in the league. It wasn't an easy win. Nobody gave us any free rides or buys. We beat everybody above us to get to Wembley, and then beat the top team at Wembley. Well and truly beat the top team. So, yeah, a trophy in second place is just unthinkable. I go back to the way I started. I look back at that rubbish from Manchester United's financial statement and look at where we are and think, my God, no debt, and owners that could who are investing, who are building a stadium and not even going into debt. You know, all of that's so bright and so positive in terms of supporters that, by far the best season I've experienced in my supporting. And I've been supporting over 70 odd years. You know, I'm 84. My first match when I was 4 years of age. So yeah, I've seen most of it.
We've gone backwards in the last 2 transfer windows, and Eddie's delivered a cup and possible Champions League. That is superb. Les says, for a club who haven't strengthened in 3 windows, I'm amazed at the quality of our squad and first team. Dan says, and all done by not strengthening in 3 windows. Absolutely amazing. It's scary to think where we could go. The sky is the limit.
Well, it's better than that for me. Remember, we haven't strengthened in 3 windows. And Eddie Howe took over a team that was heading to the Championship at 100 miles an hour. And still in that squad, there are 9 players who used to play for Steve Bruce. I'll correct myself. There are 9 players who were in the squad when Bruce was the manager, and he didn't used to play them. He used to make mockery of them.
Yeah.
Sure, and the Longstaffs and Murphy. And, Murphy we had loan sessions away with West Brom and Sheffield Wednesday, and it was almost as though Bruce didn't think he existed. And yet here we are, we're where we are, and most of those players are regularly in our first team. And he hasn't had strengthened in 3 windows. He's played with them. He's made them what they are, which is incredible. That's a bit of it he doesn't get much recognition for. The other thing is he's such an intelligent guy. He's such a likable guy. Doesn't throw anybody under the bus. Even when he's upset or looks to be upset, he doesn't come out slagging people off. When Mitchell came and then Mitchell made those assertions about the transfer things not being fit for purpose, and he didn't come out swinging. He just come out and said, "Well, I don't know. We've not done so bad. We've got Isaac. We've got Bruno. We've got And he just laid the facts on the line, and everybody said, "Yeah, you're right." So we're in a very, very good position at the moment, in my opinion.
Cheers, I love this. 2 seasons ago, we had the joint best defence in the league. Last season, we scored more goals than we did in the Keegan era. This season, we found our balance, and it's paid off with a trophy. That's well said, Cheers. That is a great couple of lines which sums up our season.
Excellent analysis, actually, yes.
Yeah, we've also had some absolute belters of games since the takeover. Real standout historical victories. What a time to be a fan. And Darren, I don't really think this will come true, but he says, was talk on a different channel that we need to sell big this summer to spend big in the summer, up to 200 million. I would switch that, Darren, and say there's more likely to be some wheeling and dealing. I think there will be players go, but I don't think the blue chip players will go. You're going to be keeping a hold of blue chip players. But we've said it on the air before, we have to get used to the fact that one day we will sell Bruno Guimaraes. One day we will sell Anthony Gordon. One day we will sell maybe Alexander Isak, but it won't be this season. It won't be next season. Those players are happy. They've come out and told you they're happy. But eventually, players do have a sell-by date. If they didn't have a sell-by date, would still be playing Peter Beardsley and Alan Shearer. So for me, that's what we have to get used to as supporters. Let's not have a social media meltdown when Bruno has to leave the club or Joe Linton has to leave the club. Leave it to the experts who work with them on a day-to-day basis. And the difference is this time, we won't be ploughing that money into building a new stand. We will be ploughing it into building another team that can go out and do the job in the black and white shirt and win a trophy for Newcastle United. Mark says he wouldn't swap Howe for anybody. Nobody could have done a better job. And that is a fact. No. And Dan says they've just released a video online, and not sure of the source, of Eddie going back to hospital that helped him with his pneumonia, thanking all the staff. He really is a great manager and a gentleman. That's really nice. I'm pleased to hear that news.
Absolutely.
We are never selling Tonali though, right, Steve, says Gary. Listen, I mean, it would be nice to think these players would stay the same for the rest of their lives, but it just doesn't happen.
I have to say that I haven't seen a fit player that has the all-round qualities that Sandro Tonali has.
No, he's brilliant.
We've had lots of great midfielders, Peter Beardsley and all the rest of it. But
Gary Speed, Rob Lee.
Yeah, you can name them all. He just adds that little bit extra, I'm afraid.
He does. He does. Great stuff. We are at the end of the show. Thank you to everybody for tuning in at a weird hour. It's a more weird hour tomorrow with Gibbo. I'll be on at 10:15 a.m. with Gibbo, 45-minute show with Gibbo tomorrow. We've already pre-recorded the Amigos, a 90-minute Amigos, and that will be on your channel at 5 o'clock on Friday night. And then you've got quite a few pre-records to get through. Enjoy them. I will be back live in the morning. George, thanks as always, mate. See you soon.
Oh, my pleasure. And thanks for watching, everybody. And I love the questions. It's a joy at the moment to be a Newcastle United fan. And you probably see that from the smile on my face.